A dynamic view is a powerful type of a view that provides a personalized experience for the user based either on their identity or on a date. For example, in this library, our new employee library, I might want to see just the documents that I modified. Now, I could filter this every time I come in, but it would be great if I could just go in and switch to a view that said just Jenny's documents. In the same way, it would be great to have a view for Gerald, so she could log in and just see her documents. And you can imagine if we have 50 users, all of a sudden we have this entire list of views. Ginny's and Leon's and Gerald's and Rosa's. And we don't have space for all of those. But more to the point, we don't need them, and we don't need to take the time to create them because we can create one dynamic view that shows Gerald her documents, shows me my document, shows Mark his, and shows Rosa hers. To create a dynamic view, it's the same way as if we were creating a regular view, but we're going to filter this view. So don't start here by saying, well, then let's go ahead and show Ginny's, because that would be creating just a Ginny view, and then I'd have to create a Gerald view and so on. No, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to Library, and we're going to say that we want to create a new view. Make it a standard view, and call it My. That's the reserved word for a personal view of this type. Now, it's not a personal view in terms of the audience. If I created this My Documents view and made it a personal view here, nobody else would ever see it, which would defeat the purpose. I'm going to create a public view that's personalized based on who's logged in. I need to choose the columns of data that I want, and here the notion of what are my documents becomes important. For example, right now I could see any document that I was the last person who modified it, or any document that I created, or both. I actually want to do both, and if I'm going to do both, it makes really good sense to throw the two columns for created and created by into this view as well. Otherwise, when I see this list of my documents, some of them will have other people's names on them, and I'll wonder, how did they get in here? So we're going to have documents that I modified by, that I created. We could also choose documents that were checked out to me as well, and I've seen that done in some libraries, but this is good enough right now. Now the question becomes, what do I want to sort these on? I'm going to sort them on name. That works for me. It could be any other order that you want. And here's the part then that's magical. And there's nothing here to memorize because the prompt for how to do it is written right here. I want to show items when the column created by is equal to me, and this goes in brackets right there, or when the column modified by is equal to me. Now, what's the difference here between and or? If I choose or, any document I created or modified will show up on the list. If I choose and, this would be documents that only I created and modified. Nobody else had a hand in modifying them last. Or, to say it a different way, it's a document that either I've recently posted and nobody else has modified, because when I create a new document and post it in SharePoint, whoever creates it is also the modifier, and the creation and modification date are the same. Bang, right away. So, either it's a brand new document or I'm the last person who modified it. That just seems kind of weird. The first is the same as if I just chose created by, and the second, well, what if somebody else jumps in there and starts modifying it? Does that make it any less mine? I'm going to choose or here. It's important, though, when you're working in SharePoint or any other application that uses filters or conditions, that you know the difference between and or. So, either it's created by me or modified by me. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And here is the My Documents view that shows me here are documents created by me or modified by me. Now notice that there are documents that are missing here. They're the documents that Gerald modified last, and also that Gerald probably created. So this lets me focus right away on my documents. Now, if I don't want to have when it was created about an hour ago, but I just want to keep the created by so that I can see that, that's helpful. Or it may simply be that all of your users know that my documents means modified by or created by. This is how I create a dynamic view based on identity, on who's logged into the computer. There's a second type of dynamic view I can also create. It's based on time. Instead of using me, I can use today, which actually goes out to Windows, to the server, and says, okay, what day is this? And I can use this to create views for documents that were posted today, for documents that have been posted in the last week, for documents that have been posted in the last month or in the last year. Any of those types of things. And again, because I can't create this filter here, I need to go up to my library and say that I'd like to create a view. And I'm going to say recently added. That would be new documents only. Now, if I also want to do modified, I could do recently changed, and I could do the same thing, created or modified recently. But I'm just going to look for new documents. So this is when they were modified, who they were modified by. I'm actually talking about when they were added, so I'm going to say created and created by as my column choices. I hope this makes sense. If I'm looking at new documents, then even though modified by and created by are probably the same, and modified and created dates are probably the same, it just makes more sense to a user for me to be showing that creation information rather than modification information. If you don't choose a sort, you'll get something. It's always better if you're making that choice. And now let's come down to filter and say, show only items in this view when the following is true. When the created date is greater than or equal to, now we're going to use today minus 7. So these would be documents created in the last 7 days. For example, if I want the last 3 days, 3. If I want today, just today. Let's say minus 7. That's it. If they were created in the last 7 days, then they meet my criteria of being recently added documents or new docs or whatever I'd like to call it. Say okay, and there are my recently added documents. When we take a look a week from now, most of these won't be here any longer. Take a look at 2 weeks from now, none of them will be here. So this is a way that I can create another type of a dynamic view, and I can put those two together. I can say I only want documents where I'm the person who modified them, and I modified them in the last 7 days. Show me documents I've worked on recently. So by using me and today, I can create dynamic views that personalize the experience for the user who's logged in and or based on the date.